Welcome to UpThinking Finance, a podcast that offers a unique and discerning view of economics and financial planning. Here are your hosts, Emerson Fersch and Amy Lenouble.
Welcome to another episode of UpThinking Finance. Financier J.P. Morgan once said, the first step towards getting somewhere is to decide you're not going to stay where you are. My name is Emerson Fersch. It's my pleasure to be here with you today and to welcome my co-host and business partner, Amy Lenouble.
Hi. Yeah, Emerson and I have had it on our hearts to speak to the younger generation for a long time now. Actually, we feel they've been rather left out of the financial conversation for a while, either based on greed when it comes to they have a lower net worth and or just simply the fact that we hear from them all the time that they don't even know where to begin or how to think about money or what to do because it's so overwhelming for them. And I think something else that doesn't help are just the geopolitical and economic factors of today that kind of have morale down, and there's a hopelessness in the air that's added on top of all that confusion. So a lot of people my age that I know are tackling future retirement needs, but living paycheck to paycheck with a lot of debt, or they have multiple jobs in the present, and this is an issue. And really, what we hope to get out of this episode is just to provide an order. It's a three-step guide, three steps that we feel would be helpful to address how to begin to plan and save for the future while also living comfortably in the present. That's the goal of today, is that you can do both, despite everything going on around you in the world. So step one is savings. The first step when you want to think about money and what to do and how to invest for your future is actually to plan for the present. So having 3 to 6 months of emergency savings would be your first goal. This is vital for not only your personal comfort level, but of course, life's unexpected things. So it's helpful to have a budget. I think people use some online budget things, like off the top of my head, I think of Rocket Money, or you can look in your checkbook if you're archaic like me, and 40, but you have a list of your monthly expenses and you know what you spend each month, and therefore, you have at least 3 times that in your bank account or your savings account, your high yield savings account. Whichever money market account you're using, you wanna have 3 to 6 months of the expenses that you spend first, before anything else. So just remember, this is step 1. First, you have those savings. That's the bare minimum. Um for emergency and anything like that. I just want to say there's no difference between 3 to 6 months. 3 is the minimum that we recommend. So please, at least 3 months of savings. The difference between 3 to 6 is just your preference, a cushion level that you're comfortable with. So I wanted to show a chart, a nifty chart. This chart here kind of shows, it's a savings chart, and we understand that there's a difficulty with saving. So you can kind of see that the green, it stands for the easiest places to save, and the purple, and of course the dark purple is showing the difficult places to save. And California, where we are located, is number 47 out of 50, meaning it is one of the hardest places to save based on the cost of living. So one thing that we wanted to kind of provide that we thought would be helpful for saving is something that people don't often think about, which is your 401k. Now, of course, you might not have a 401k and this maybe doesn't apply to you, but if it does apply to you, um, one idea would be to lower or reduce your 401k contributions. Why we bring that up is usually what we see or a lot of people are contributing the max to their 401k, and they're good jobs saving for the future, but meanwhile, they're paycheck to paycheck, pinching pennies, and they're saving for the future with money they can't touch for 40 years that's growing substantially and doing great, but they've got multiple jobs and minimal savings and poor liquidity. That's an issue. There needs to be a balance and everything in its place. So that's why we say first the savings. What you can do to build up your savings if you happen to live in one of those purple or dark purple states where the cost of living is high, income is lower, how else can I grow my savings? One thing you can do is lower your 401k contributions to the minimum so that you can still get your match, and let your savings build up, which just means you'll be getting more from your paycheck. And then once you have your 3 to 6 months, you can go back to contributing what you desire. Now let Emerson talk about the 401k match as well, but that's just one idea.
Yeah, and so the thing is, and Amy's going to get into this in a moment, is managing debt. Obviously, savings is the goal. It's a good thing. I mean, that's you want to do that, and we're going to talk a little bit later about why you want to start as soon as you can. However, if things come up and there's no emergency plan, oftentimes people will find themselves taking loans out against their 401k, which kind of defeats the purpose. So, as a good minimum, um, Amy mentioned, most plans offer a match. It's the way to bring in, attract employees, and it's free money. I mean, that's the thing to be aware of. And I'm going to make something up. Oftentimes, it's somewhere between 3 and 4%. All you have to do to get that match is contribute the 3 or 4%, and then you're doubling your money just by participating. And so, if you're going to cut back, which can be a good strategy for people, that would be a good minimum to try to target. The thing to be aware of with matching contributions is typically they're subject to what's called a vesting schedule. And that is effectively the amount of time you have to stay with the company before those funds become yours. So it doesn't limit your mobility if you were to go from one place to the next, but you do need to be aware that if you haven't fulfilled the time that the vesting schedule requires, and there's actually two. One is what's called a cliff vesting, where after 3 years the money's yours. Most companies use what's referred to as a graded schedule, where you get 20% vesting over 5 years, and then in the 6th year the money is yours. But yeah, it's a good way to kind of satisfy two things: keep saving for the long term, but as Amy said earlier, also address the here and now by building up your savings account.
Yeah. So that's step one. Savings. Step two from there, once you have your cushion that you're comfortable with, would be to tackle debt. Quick caveat, we understand debt comes in all shapes and sizes. So your credit card debt is very different from your mortgage debt or college tuition debt, and we understand that. But the way that I think we want you to think or see debt is that it's not your money. So, what a lot of people do, for example, is something I hear people my age doing all the time. They get a tax refund and they're like, oh, it's free money. I'm going to go on a vacation, for example. That's not free money. That's money you should have had the whole year that was yours, that's being given back to you because you overpaid. And so people, they just don't understand how to think about money when they have it. A lot of, I will say, Americans specifically spend money they don't have on things they don't need. So when you have that 3 to 6 months of savings, the way you want to think about that is savings. That's not free money. That's a cushion there. That's for assisting you in possible negative things that can happen in life. After that, you want to tackle the debt. So you don't just use all of the 6 month or 4.5 month savings on the debt. No, you keep that there. And then the other money that you're accumulating goes toward debt. So the the money that you're getting that is going toward debt is not your money. That's how you want to think about it. It's not my money. It's owed to someone else. What is my money? My money is after my savings and after my debt. Any excess is my money to do with what I want to do, investing, vacations, planning, things like that. But any money that you owe for whatever debt is not your money. You have the money, but the money is going to someone else. And so you really wanna be thinking of it that way, um, so that you know how to plan and how to make life more comfortable, in the present. But before you move to investing in anything, a home or a vacation or, the stock market, you tackle your debt. And you wanna get that order right because oftentimes what we can see happen is if people don't have their emergency savings and then they tackle the debt and then an emergency happens, then they go right back into debt because they had to use their credit card for that hospital bill or that dental appointment or whatever it is. So you want to make sure that you have the step 1, the savings, and then the step 2, the tackling debt is after that, and you don't pull and pay off debt, um, larger than your desired 3 to 6 months of savings, that you've chosen just to avoid the cycling repeating itself. But there are different kinds of debt that I'll let Emerson speak about.
Yeah, no, that's good. So there's debt can be called good debt or bad debt, which is pretty, generic and simple. Some good debt can actually be bad debt, and generally bad debt is just bad debt. It's not usually good debt. So what is good debt? Good debt would be anything that is either going to help you become more marketable, increase your earning power, or help build your, personal wealth, your net worth. So things that like student loans could be considered a good debt. A home mortgage could be considered good debt. The overarching guideline though on all this before you even drill down into that is can I afford the payments? Because if you can't, then you're going to run into the problem Amy just described, which is more money going out than is coming in, and it's a hurdle you can't get over because as soon as the wind shifts and something goes wrong, you're back to building out and adding what would then be considered bad debt. So good debt is something that additionally probably is lower interest rate debt, and that in today's market it's going to be somewhere maybe 4 to 7%, depending upon what the loan's for. May, as I mentioned earlier, have some kind of a tax advantage, like a mortgage can be deductible up to a certain point, the interest. Um, Also could be, again, something that you can afford that works within your budget. Additionally, a business loan. Let's say maybe you've decided you have a really good idea, you've got a business plan. Starting a business with a loan also could be considered good debt. You're investing in your future. Again, it has to be something that you can afford to handle the payments on. Bad debt, Amy said it already before. It's really spending money on things that don't offer any future value or benefit. It's more of a kind of an in the moment thing. And I mean, there's a place for that, but it's got to be within reason. Um, Credit card debt is probably one of the worst. The rates on most credit cards for people are typically 15 to sometimes over 20%. I mean, that if for a person making the minimum payments on that, you'll never get rid of it. It's literally a funnel that just continues to pull you down. And then again, anything that's potentially impacting your budget that you just can't afford. So again, when you're looking at debt, just a few guidelines. Is it affordable? What's the interest rate? What's the purpose behind it? That's probably the biggest thing after, whether you can absorb the payment. And then obviously, if you have too much good debt, that can be bad because again, your payments build up. So you want to be smart.
Yeah. So that brings us to the final step, which is investing for your future. So once you have your savings and you have tackled your debt, congratulations, your money is officially your money and it should be invested. Now, when I say should be invested, you define what investment means. Now, we're not therapists, so if you want to invest in a vacation, we won't tell you how to do that, or invest in therapy, or invest in that, you know, health test you always wanted to do that you couldn't afford. You can do that. If you want to invest in a home, we're not realtors. You can do that. But once your money is your money, it should now begin to invest for the future. You've got the present taken care of. You're not in debt. You have your savings. You're living comfortably. What do I now do for the future? Since we're financial planners, we're going to talk about the financial side of things. But I just want to be clear that buying a home, or upgrading the car, or getting the puppy you've always wanted, which is my dream, those are investments too. But we are speaking on finances. So once your money is your money, the things to think about with financial investing, how you want to think about it, are: how old am I? What's my life status and my time horizon? So I'll talk about myself. I'm 40. My life status, I'm not retired. I'm working. I'll probably be working for, let's say, another 25 years. So my time horizon of 25 years is long. A short time horizon would be, 5 years and under, kind of middle 10 years. Anything above 10 years is a long time horizon. So when you're thinking of investing, You want to invest your money based on things that directly apply to you, such as that. And so your money should be invested or allocated in investment objectives that apply to those things. So if I'm 23 and I'm not going to touch my money for a long time, I should be invested in growth. If I'm 55 and I'm going to be retired in 10 years, maybe I'm invested more moderately. And I talked to a financial planner about that. Or if I'm 32, I'm married with 2 kids, and this money I'm investing is going to be used to buy a home in 2 to 3 years, that should be invested more conservatively. How you invest depends on what your goal is. How old you are, the length of time you have before pulling the money, and what your life status is. Did you just get fired? Are you retiring soon? Will you get a pension? Or when you retire, will you rely fully on this investment income? All those things matter. So you need to think about those things when you're investing that money. A lot of times, what I hear from people my age that are working, so they're my age working, not retired. They have a long time of needing the funds. They're not going to pull from it, but they still tell me how they want to be conservative. They're really nervous. You really don't want to do that. Let your 3 to 6 months of savings be your conservative piece. That money doesn't keep pace with inflation. That money's in a bank or high yield savings account. Um, Invest the rest and be okay with it. Uh, because the longer the time that you have for that money to grow is better to weather market risk, which just means the volatility of, being invested in the stock market. And so another thing I hear is a Roth IRA versus an IRA. What type of account should I get? And that's a great question. Obviously, it's individual, so I can't say exactly for you. But what I will kind of tell you, or we'll talk about it loosely, the pros and cons of both. And I'm not a tax preparer, but here's what I know of both of them. So an IRA is helpful if you want an immediate, deduction on your income. So I contribute to my IRA, whatever the IRS maximum is at that time for that year, because it changes, just so you know. Whatever I contribute lowers my income, lowers my tax bracket. Yay, I'm happy. There are income limits. So this is where you'd want to talk to your tax preparer, because some people make too much to contribute to an IRA or Roth IRA, in which case this conversation would be null and void. But that's a tax preparer question. If you contribute to your IRA, it will reduce your taxes. It will give you that income reduction. And then later on, when you pull the money out, it will be fully taxable. So you get the deduction, but later when you withdraw it, you're fully taxed. A Roth IRA, opposite. When you contribute, you don't get a deduction. I don't get anything for contributing other than saving for my future. But when I pull it later on in life, tax-free. Um, don't pay taxes as post-tax money. So depending on where your income is, um, and if I'm making up examples, if you're part-time, you're a student working part-time and you're making a lower income, well, then you don't really need a tax deduction because you're in the lowest tax bracket. So maybe a Roth IRA is better for you. Then, you're getting promoted in jobs later on. When you pull the money, you'll be in a higher tax bracket, but it's tax-free. That's when a Roth would work for you. Maybe you're making more income, so that tax deduction matters for you, and you're making more income, you're going to retire, so when you pull from your IRA, you'll be in the lower tax bracket. That's just how you want to think about it, of which might be better for you. um, but we really want to just end on a high note with investing, and really just show you how slow and steady and consistent wins the race. And so I'm going to cue over to Emerson with this nifty little chart to kind of boost morale in that way.
Yeah, and one thing real quick before I jump into that regarding 401ks, you really do want to pay attention to what your investment options are. Most plans are required to have kind of a default, which typically are target date funds. And our experience is that they're generally not the best, particularly for younger people. So just something to be aware of, that you do want to put some time and effort into the allocations that you do invest your money in a 401k. Okay, so um, when to start and how much? And I guess, as Amy would say, I'll cut the suspense. The sooner you start, the better. And it honestly doesn't matter how much you start with. I think that's probably the biggest point from a couple of perspectives, which one I'm going to show in a minute, which is just how the money builds up over time. And time is your biggest asset as an investor. Um, but number two is the discipline of it. And I will tell you, speaking for myself, I know Amy could testify to that as well as anybody else who's doing it. Once you've started a systematic plan of investments, you do not miss the money. You just don't. It's not like all of a sudden you feel like you're pinched and short. It kind of just goes and it's out of sight, out of mind. So it's not as big of an adjustment as people might think. Okay, so now that I've said that, let's go to, I'm going to show a little something here. So this is an example that's some people may be pretty familiar with, but it's sort of compares two different investors. Sarah over here decides to start saving money at age 25. She's going to put $500 a month away, which may seem like a lot. Disregard the amount. It's more about the idea of starting early. She does it for 10 years and then she stops. So for that 10-year period of time, she's invested 60 grand. Blake, on the other hand, gets off to a little bit of a later start. He's in his 30s at this point. He starts at age 35. So 10 years later, he's starting right at the time Sarah stops. He puts in the same 500 a month, but he continues doing it for 30 years till he's 65. The interesting part of this is that at age 65, who has more money? And of course, it's a setup question. Sarah has more money, over $780,000 compared to a little over $500,000 for Blake, even though she saved a third of the amount. The reason is because of compound interest, and she started 10 years earlier. Her money had 40 years to grow. And this is using a 7% inflation rate. So what's the lesson? The lesson is obviously take advantage of the time when you have it. And even if you're, just as Amy said, starting out, you're a student and your company allows you to put money away, or you could put money in an IRA. $25 a month is nothing to be ashamed about. It's getting the process started. And then for those who wait till later, you shouldn't feel bad either, because the one thing we don't show with Blake is that, his and both of them, if they keep working, people start to reach their peak earning years once they kind of hit their early to mid 40s. And so most people are going to accelerate their contributions and their savings as they go through that phase of life anyway. But yeah, time is definitely an asset that if you can take advantage of it, you want to, because it'll make a big difference down the road. I think the last thing I'll say on that is one of the things in all the years I've been involved with this work is it's not about hitting home runs or the quick fix. It's really the long game. It's just a long, disciplined approach that ultimately pays off. Regardless of what markets are doing, that's another thing is if you can continue to stick with the plan, especially when markets are down, because that's when you're buying things at a discount. In the long run, that'll really pay off for you.
Yeah, so we hope that just leaves you on an encouraging note that starting small is not to be underestimated. You can do it, you have the time to do it, and you're doing a good job. So that's the 3 steps: emergency savings, tackling debt, and investing the excess once it's your money. We're going to be doing these podcasts quarterly for the younger generation just to educate and talk about topics that pertain to them. So we really look forward to that, and we hope you enjoyed this episode.
Emerson Fersh and Amy Lenoble are registered representatives, and securities and advisory services are offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. The guest speakers and the companies they represent are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Capital Investment Advisors, LLC. Individual tax and legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal expert. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal.